So good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Sorry no one got to rock out to like our super cool pre-service video. But it's fine. Everybody give it up for Dan for stepping in and can you give it up for yourself, or is you just only gonna do that for me? Cool. Okay. All right. I wish you guys could see like the looks he gives me sometimes on Sundays.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Are we just gonna go through like all the different ones now? So anyway, you guys, these technical difficulties, I feel like can we just have 1 week where things don't go wrong? But it's fine. It's all good. Like we're not fancy around here, so well, welcome everyone. Also, huge shout out to our new watch party small group that's happening this morning at Casa Maria here in Kyle. So hopefully you guys are having a good time all tuning in together. Okay, Kim said, darn, the pre-service music is some of Journey's favorite. Her little girl likes to jam to the pre-service music. Okay, well, today we are, in a little bit here, we're going to launch into this morning's message. We are in the second week of our Learning to Love series, where we're talking about all different kinds of relationships. And today we're going to be talking about friendship. So I'm really excited to play this conversation for you that we recorded a couple of days ago with a few folks from the church. And so I'm excited to get into that here in just a minute. But before we do that, just have a few announcements. First of all, we are actually going to forego our typical worship time today, simply because our conversation lasted for about an hour. And so in order to you stay on time and with everything that we have, we're going to go ahead and forego our typical worship this morning, and we're going to go straight into the conversation here in a few minutes. But maybe in the chat, feel free to tell us how you're doing. Tell us maybe something you're grateful for that happened this week. Maybe something that God spoke to your heart this week, or a way that you were able to connect with someone, or just experience kind of just goodness and love and blessing this week. Maybe share that in the chat just so we can celebrate together about the good things that are happening in our lives. Secondly, for all of our kiddos, and I'm going to say this now because a lot of times if I wait until the end, sometimes for whatever reason I end up forgetting to announce this. So we have our eKids Connect Zoom call today at 11 o'clock. So if you have kiddos, excuse me, there is a link. I think Amanda will probably put the link for that in the chat, and it's also in the email that goes out. But you can hop on that Zoom with your kids so they can have time to connect with one another and to connect with Pastor Amanda. And so, that will be really exciting for those of you that have little ones. Also, for all of you who are new, maybe this is your first week tuning in, or maybe you've been tuning in for a few weeks and just haven't had a chance to do this yet, we would love for you to fill out a Connect card. This is just a way for us to get some of your basic info so that we can keep you updated on everything that we have going on around Icon. We will not stalk you, I promise. We will not send you like a million emails. It's just like one email a week that we send out that just has all the details for anything that you need to know that's going on. For instance, next Sunday, typically the last Sunday of the month, we have a in-person gathering. But this month, again, because, where we've been meeting, the kids are in an outdoor space. And because the month of February, you just never know what the weather is going to be. And it could be quite cold in the morning. So we're going to still meet for service online next week. We are not going to be meeting in person for the service. However, immediately following the service, at 11 o'clock, we're going to join up with all of the watch party small group people at Casa Maria, and we're just going to have a early lunch together. So anyone in the area, feel free to meet us over there, and also feel free to come and join that watch party. If you really would like to come and be a part of an in-person gathering, they gather, they have a computer, they watch the service together, and then we'll all meet up in person there to eat lunch together afterwards. So that is happening next week. And then lastly, for everyone who continues to faithfully and generously give to Icon, thank you, thank you, thank you. Again, and I say this every week, but we know that the way that the church continues is by all of us coming together, sharing our resources, giving what we're able, so that the church can continue and move forward. So thank you all for your generosity. And if you this morning find yourself in a place of some needs that you need met, maybe you are struggling to have enough money for groceries, maybe there's a bill that you need to pay that there just isn't enough money to pay for, please, we would love to be able to come alongside you and to help in any way that we can. We believe that the church exists to care for each other and to be a blessing and a benefit. So if that's you, if you find yourself you could use a little bit of extra support right now, send us an email at info@iconchurch.com so we can get in touch with you, assess that need, and see in what ways we can partner with you to help meet those needs. So, okay. I think that's all of the housekeeping details here, but we're going to go ahead in a second and go into our conversation today. I'm really excited about this. It was a good conversation. I also want to say that the purpose of these conversations, it's not to necessarily provide answers or to provide any kind of certainty or any kind of right or wrong way of doing certain things. It's just simply us sharing our own lived experiences and offering the wisdom that we have gained, the way that we process things, and then to invite you into that conversation. So as you're watching this conversation happen this morning, I would love for you to share your thoughts and your opinions and your experiences in the chat. Let us know, how as we approach each question, feel free to answer those questions. And, there's just so much that we have to learn from one another, which is why we do these conversations. Like, everyone has so much to offer, and we have so much that we can learn from each other, and we can grow when we listen to one another's experiences. So I would love to hear from you in the chat this morning. So now we're going to go ahead and go into this video, and at the end we'll come back just for a quick sec to say goodbye, and then we'll be done for today. So let's go ahead and watch this wonderful conversation about friendship. Well, welcome everyone to Icon Online. We're so glad that you're all here today. We are in the second week of our series called Learning to Love, where we are talking about all kinds of relationships and how we can engage in relationships. Last week, we talked about our relationship with ourselves and how that is like the most important relationship, because if that isn't healthy, we're going to bring that into every other relationship. And so today we're going to be talking about friendship. So I've invited Kat and Sabrina and Jonathan to join today. And we're just going to ask some questions and have a conversation, share some of our own experiences, and hopefully some of what we talk about will be of value to you. Hopefully we can learn and grow from one another's thoughts and perspectives and experiences. So, okay, so we're just going to jump right in here. Obviously friendship is something that in one way, shape, or form is going to impact every person, because we are all human, and humans, we were built for a connection with other humans. And so obviously that's going to look different based on personality and like life experiences and all of that. But it's something that I think every single person can relate to, because we all are figuring out what it looks like to navigate friendships. And so just to kind of start us off, I would love to hear from all of you. When you kind of broadly look at friendship across different seasons of your life, and for you currently, how important is friendship to each one of you when you look at your overall well-being as a person? What is the value of having friendships for you in your own life? And whoever wants to go first can just jump in. So.
Mm-hmm. I vote Kat.
Okay. Well, I can usually talking first anyway. Well, so in terms of value and stuff, friendships, I know people say that friendships are your chosen family members. Basically, they're the people that you aren't blood related to, but they're the people that end up being really supportive and things like that. And for me, I think it's kind of like those are the people that you can be your more organic self around, because for family members, they're wonderful, but at the same time, they have this kind of preconceived notion of exactly who you are, and they expect you to always behave in a certain way, and they're also trying to like help guide you and direct your growth at the same time. And with friends, they're there for support, but they're also just there to let you be yourself and to be more of a listening ear than to just kind of try to like help shape you. Basically, they say, "Hey, this is who I am. I'm already shaped. Do you like do you like this version of me? Do you think that we have chemistry in terms of that?" And I think it's definitely more of an organic thing. Like you're less worried about how you come off, I guess, to someone when you have a really strong friendship, because you just know they're gonna like take you as you are, basically. So it's
yeah, that's really good.
Yeah, I'll go, and on top of that, just kind of echo what you said there at the end. I think for like whenever I'm thinking about friendships and overall like how important that is to me, I think they're one of the single most important things to me. And I think a lot of that for me, again, going off of what you had said, Kat, a lot of that has to do with I'm sort of an insecure person, and I allow those insecurities to maybe get to a place where I'm trying to people please, or I'm trying to like impress people, or I have to try to kind of earn my way in. And I think with the friendships that I have now at this point in my life, it's so important for me to be around people that I can just 100% be my authentic self, all the good, all the bad. I know that if I'm surrounded with true friends, all of that stuff doesn't matter because they have my best interest in mind. And that's, so for me, friendships is, for my well-being, it's extremely vital, extremely vital.
Yeah.
I guess for me, I feel like I'm in the prime of my friendship life now. As I've been through seasons where it felt like I didn't really have any close friends. But now I just feel like I have such a great network of friends who, I don't know if maybe this has to do with like my Enneagram style and like how I relate to people, but I feel like, I've got friends that I can relate to and need for different things, different times. And, I've got a really wonderful group of like 4 or 5 close friends that we've been friends for years, and that I can be, very vulnerable with. And then I have, friends who are just fun to hang out with and like have a laugh with and have a good time. But we maybe haven't reached that same level of depth yet. And yeah, it's just really vital to my life, to keeping me balanced as a person and I think stable and like mentally, emotionally well. Really depend on those relationships.
Yeah, they are very good for mental health. That is a really good point, especially for people who are single and not married. They don't have this huge network of other people around them that they see every day or live with. Because if you are not partnered, one of the other main sources of love and affection and connection is friendship. So they can be really important, especially since we've all learned, during the pandemic when everybody was like, "Oh wait, I can't see these people anymore," and it just completely like changed your whole worldview. And I think it's really made us realize how important friendship is. And I think we took that for granted a lot, being able to see each other and do all that stuff in person and to connect that way. So then we're like, wow, yeah, this is really important. Like I need to work on preserving these things and working on the relationship. So
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm glad you said that too, like from the perspective of a person who is single and who isn't partnered currently, just to
Mhm.
that really is so key. And for mental health, it's interesting. I was listening to a couple different podcasts as I was kind of preparing for this conversation. And in one of them, and I was listening to, it's the We Can Do Hard Things podcast with Glennon Doyle. But they were talking about some different scientific research that has been done about the actual both physical and mental benefits of friendship, and how there have been some studies done that were showing that potentially, and I think, some of these, it's like an ongoing study and you can never know. It's like, is this really for sure why? But like there may be, it's possible that what they have observed is being in close friendships, and what they determine as close is when those friendships are stable, when they're positive, and when they're reciprocal. Those are kind of like the factors that determine this like healthy friendship, And it said when people are in relationships like that, it can potentially change the rate at which your cells age, because it lessens stress, and it gives you this sense of belonging, that it can potentially boost your immune system response. Like, what? That it can possibly help with cognitive health. They did a study with elderly patients, and there was they were less inclined to develop dementia when they were involved in these healthy, life-giving friendships. So, and then obviously mentally, like we all know that like that ability to be in a space where you can be fully who you are and know that you're loved for fully who you are is like, that's like, I feel like that just does that like helps people with depression. It helps with anxiety, so it's like, it's pretty profound when we even look at the scientific research on that kind of connection, and how, we talk all the time about we're wired for connection, we're wired for community, but like literally within ourselves, we're, wired for that kind of connection with each other. So yeah, that's really, really, really good. So how, I'm going to kind of skip around in the order of the questions that I sent you guys, but because we were talking about like, friendships being really important, for all of us. As you kind of look back over your life, because I think for some people, especially people who are adults, I feel for me, I have experienced making new friendships is much harder for me as an adult than it was for me when I was a kid. And and that could be personality, that could just be because we've developed this like, I don't know, sometimes I feel like we get more insecure the older we get, because like when you're young, it's like you don't know enough to be insecure yet. Like, it's just who you are is who you are, So how has the way that you've approached friendship in your life shifted or changed over time? And do you find that as an adult, is it harder for you to make friendships, or do you feel like you're one of those people that it's really easy for you to find those kinds of connections?
Well, yeah, you're definitely kind of stuck in this bubble as an adult, because you're not interacting with people every day. I think like the social connections kind of diminish as we get older, because when we're in grade school and when we're young, we have friends that we hang out with after school. We have recess. We have like things like that where we're actually going out to meet new people. And like you said, we're not as self-conscious. Like kids are like, hey, I have a dinosaur toy. Do you want to come see it? And then somebody else gets excited. So it's a lot easier to connect with like little things like that. But also too, just as you get older, distance is definitely an issue as well, because we've moved around a lot. You have friends here, friends in New York and Texas, like all over the world. So it's harder to keep those friendships up. So it's easier to maintain them, I think, when you're younger, and it takes a lot more purposeful effort as an adult, because you have to maintain the connection and like, not religiously, but like make sure you are actively checking in on people, and you have to make plans and you have to do stuff like that to maintain that. And then if you don't, they just kind of disappear and float off. It's not like you're going to run into them if they're like spread out like that. So, I mean, a lot of the time you make friends at your job. My best friend now is someone I met like 3 years ago when I was working delivering pizza at Domino's during grad school, and like she's amazing. Like I see her like almost all the time. We send each other silly memes back and forth and stuff. But I met her because I was at work. Like I would never have met her if it had been just like a random like social thing. It's really hard. It's a lot harder to meet people if it's not through work or through like your other friends. Basically, that's how we meet people now. So, and yeah, it definitely does take more intentional effort. So if people aren't like both making that effort, it kind of just dissolves and kind of goes away. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have recess where they throw us outside and you have to go play together.
So true.
That sounds awesome. I want recess.
Right?
I want recess. I want the little ice cream pops back in the little carton.
It's like, can we reinstate recess, please? Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right, Kat. Yeah, proximity really plays a big role, in adult relationships. Like, I mean, even just over the past couple of years with the pandemic, I had a whole crew of people that we would hang out together at the gym, and we'd go out and like have monthly cheat nights together. And since COVID, like I hardly see or talk to them anymore. But then I have other friends who like I went to seminary with, and while we were, casual friends at school, we didn't really become close until after we graduated. And since then, I don't know, we've developed really close relationships, and we've been more purposeful about connecting and checking in on each other, like you were saying. And yeah, I think I've had to learn over the years, kind of that the ebb and flow of relationships. And sometimes that can be a tough thing, but sometimes, people are there for a time and a season. And I think that time in that relationship is valuable.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, and we also have more responsibilities too. I mean, as a kid, you have very little worry about anything. And then now it's like, oh my gosh, I have to work, I have to go to a job, I have to sleep, I have to find 8 hours to sleep, I have to exercise. Like I'm supposed to be doing all these other things. When am I supposed to find time to connect with people? So we definitely have that as well. But also, I feel like as we get older, we get to know ourselves more, and we basically become more fully formed as to who we're going to be. So those connections become more specific because those personalities don't always line up. So you have to find someone who is compatible with like who you turn into. So I think that's also why the connections kind of change as well.
Yeah. And we lost Jonathan, but I'm sure he'll probably hop back on. So we'll just keep chatting and hope that he comes. Oh, there we go. He's coming back on. Hey, we lost you.
Sorry, friends. I didn't set do not disturb on my phone, and I got disturbed, so I apologize.
It disturbed you.
Yeah, I was disturbed.
Well, do you have anything to add to that, Jonathan, as far as like how, just how friendship has changed for you over time? Or
yeah, I think really quick, I feel like right now I'm significantly more content with my friendships. And so there's maybe it just again, just a level of contentness that I'm really happy with right now. And so I think that and I would say this, it's changed to where I think I have less friends now than at any point in my life. I'm 37 years old. I think I have less friends now, but the friendships I have now are significantly deeper than they've ever been. And so at this point in my life and for what I can see moving forward, I'm so happy about that. Like that's that's something I'm very happy about and I'm excited about moving forward with. And so I think just more quality over quantity is an approach I feel like that I'm taking just kind of the older I get. So
yeah, for sure. I feel that too. I feel like I'm kind of in a sweet spot right now, and I think part of that too has come with the more that I embrace who I am as a person and am less afraid of and of what people think, and the more that I have seen my friends see me at my absolute worst, see all of the mess, and they're still there. Like, that has brought me to a place where I just am, I think, feeling more secure and solid, in those friendships. And I want to come back to what Sabrina said, how there's like an ebb and flow of relationships, because I've experienced that too, where, and like Jonathan, when you said how you have significantly less quantity wise, of friends now than you have before. I mean, I've seen that too. Like I have seen, throughout my life, like it's funny when I look at like all the people who were bridesmaids in my wedding, I literally don't talk to any of them except for my family members. Like my 2 cousins and my sister-in-law were at my wedding, but all the other people and it was never I like purposefully shut them out, or it's just over time we just grew apart, and those friendships sort of they kind of ended, not like because there was a falling out or because we didn't like each other, but it just kind of happened that way. So how have you guys navigated that sort of the ebb and flow of friendships, and maybe even has there been a time where you've had to end a friendship that was either unhealthy, or there was, just something happened and the two of you realized like this is just not working? Has there ever been a time, and how have you handled and navigated the end of friendships in your life?
Yeah, when you sent us the questions, your question relating to that really stood out to me. So I think the loss of a friendship, and when you have something, maybe it ends because of a conflict, is not really a real like recognized loss.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, you can't be like, I just broke up with my friend. People don't talk that way.
Yeah, it's true.
But yeah, I mean, I've had relationships that ended through conflict, and it was a huge loss. And really took time to grieve and try to understand what had happened. I mean, I had like one that comes to mind was a friend who was really close. Like we even spent some holidays together, and like but then we had a conflict. She got mad at me and stopped talking to me basically. And when I found out that she had passed away, that was, even after years of not talking, that was really hard, and just knowing that like we had never been able to resolve things. So yeah, just that lots of friendship is really hard.
Yeah, I'm so sorry that you walked through that. Just to take a second to make space to honor that, that there is so much grief there, and that is really, really hard. Yeah. Kat or Jonathan, do you guys have anything to add as far as ever experiencing the loss of a friendship?
Yeah. So, back to when I was working at Domino's, I met Jessica there, who I'm still like best friends with, and we still hang out all the time. But there was a younger girl that we started hanging out with named Chloe, and we would do like the whole girls' weekends and do like staying in the hotel and all of that. And we were super close for a long time. And then she just, she was one of those people that would ask me what I thought, or would say, hey, what do you think about this life decision? I need some advice on it. And then I would, honestly tell her what I thought, of course, not in a mean way or anything, but I'd say, hey, this is what I think would be healthier for you, this is if you really want to know. And then she would get upset and say that I was being judgmental. So it just, I mean, it was hard because it's like I was really invested in her well-being and I wanted her to, be healthy and happy and all of that stuff. And then felt like I got dragged into just a lot of drama that was going on. And so I was trying to be helpful, but at the same time, I felt like it wasn't appreciated. And so finally, I think last year we had this big argument, and it wasn't even related to anything important at all. I guess she was just like upset about some other stuff that was going on. And then she said, okay, well, I'm just going to stop talking to you. I don't really need that kind of negativity. And I was like, okay, well, it is what it is. So we, I think, didn't talk for about a year. And then right before our mutual friend's baby shower, because I was planning the baby shower for her, she messaged me on Facebook and she said, hey, I'm really sorry about what happened last year. I was definitely kind of in the wrong. I said, well, we are different people. Like some people are meant to be friends for a while and then it just kind of runs out. And that's what happens because their personalities are too different or just because they don't communicate well. Sometimes that's just what happens. So we're Facebook friends again, but we're not really as close as we were. Like we definitely don't share stuff anymore, like to the degree that we actually did before. So, it's just, that's the other thing too, like in terms of reciprocal friendships, you have to find people who are going to put in the level of effort that you're putting in. And I put in, from my perspective anyway, a ton of effort and it just was never reciprocated or appreciated. So at some point, despite like how much you might care about somebody, you can't you can't obviously change who they are. And if you are trying to be a good friend and do your best, but that's not being reciprocated or given back, then it just becomes this kind of toxic exchange. And there's really no point, especially if, you can't like kind of meet in the middle and figure out how to go forward from there. So, I kind of still wish her well, hope she's doing well, but we're definitely not spending time like in each other's company anymore. So, which is sad because we were super close for like a couple of years and it was great, but yeah, it's hard to invest into somebody when they're basically saying, I don't appreciate it. Even though they kind of asked for it. It was complicated, but she's doing well. So it's like, what can you do?
Yeah. There's not a lot of people talk about like how to end a friendship, like or like, because sometimes I think, especially in the church world, because you're supposed to love everybody and and so it's like you feel this pressure of like you have to stay in relationships even if those friendships are not good for you, or if it's like not healthy, and we feel like, and so no one really ever, like, I'm still trying to figure that out. There's been friendships that like friends that I had at one time that now we aren't friends anymore, some due to conflict, but I look back on it and I'm like, man, like I think the separation is necessary for my health and well-being. And also I regret how things came about because it was like I didn't really know how to have that conversation and how to say like I need space from you because then you're what I mean, like it's just a hard thing and we don't really, that's not talked about very much.
Nobody talks about the breakup friends conversation. They kind of like make fun of it sometimes on sitcoms. Like I remember the Fresh Prince episode where I guess his girlfriend's dad really, really bonded with him. And he was like, man, your father's like following me around. He's starting to stalk me. I think I'm going to have to break up with him. Yeah. And then that was the whole conversation. But people don't talk about that. So it's, most of the time when friends fall, they don't get to have like reconciliation. There is just space. And I mean, sometimes that is best because you can't come to a mutual agreement, but we don't really have conversations about how to do that in a healthy way, like we do for romantic relationships. It's definitely different. So,
there's it's not like, here's what you do. It's like if you're dating someone, well, then you have a conversation and you break up and you go your separate ways. Or like, for marriages, if they decide to, like, there's a name for it and a thing that happens, but like with friendship, that's not really there, And so I think we're all just kind of going, I don't know how to do this,
Yeah.
What about you, Jonathan? Anything to add to that question?
No, not really.
Okay.
No, that was all really good.
Yeah, cool.
He's never had a friendship breakup.
I've never had any like really big falling. Yeah, I just haven't ever had like really any big, which I'm fortunate for. You know what I mean? I don't. Yeah, I just haven't ever had like a big falling out.
Yeah, and that's
Guess-
good. Yeah, and that's good.
Yeah,
I think just,
again,
even
I'm
just
fortunate for
saying. Sorry, I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good.
I'm saying even just like none of us are able to give anyone answers today on like how to, I think just normalizing it and talking about that.
Totally.
That is something that
Well,
in our
step
life,
one.
like we do need to figure that out, you know, like, and we
Yeah.
need to
Step
understand
one, you
that.
have a sit down conversation. Step two, you said, yeah, we don't have the
No.
step 1 through 10 at all.
Yeah.
Really, it's just to have the only thing we can say is have a conversation, talk to them
Mhm.
about it, and then start from there. Because I mean,
Mhm.
communication is why most relationships either succeed or they end. So
Yep.
if you're having issues and it's kind of toxic, like just have the conversation, even if it's
Yeah.
awkward and weird.
That's,
But-
I mean,
and I
really,
guess-
that's it right there. Yeah.
And I will say this, so I haven't ever had like a really big falling out necessarily. Like obviously as life goes on, you start to like life happens, you know what I mean? And circumstances changes and personalities change and then different things get introduced in. So I think as time has gone on, there's definitely been relationships that I've just realized, hey, like I don't really like vibe with this person anymore. Like they're not really someone that, and so I don't think that that's a bad thing for anyone. I think the ending of a friendship, sometimes can be a good thing, though it can be hard. It can be good. You know what I mean? And so I think that maybe looking at, all of those things considered, like that's just sort of natural. You know what I mean? Like, again, as we get older and as life happens, people change. Like I'm not the same person I was 15 years ago whenever I was in a relationship with another person or whenever I had a friendship with another person. Like I'm a different person. They may be a different person. And so it's natural.
Yep. So normalizing it, it's normal. And then I think what Kat said too, when I think most of us are self-aware enough to be able to look at a relationship and recognize when a conversation needs to be had, like having that hard conversation. I think it's just a matter of discerning for each of us, when and if that's necessary.
Yep.
Okay. So now that we've talked about, friendships that can end, now I want to talk a little bit about like when you look at the healthy friendships in your life, the ones that, whether you've been friends for decades or maybe it's, a more recent friendship, but when you think about the friendships in your life that are healthy and thriving, how do you think it got there? Like, what are some things that you think are important, in order to nurture and care for the friendships in your life? Like, what are some qualities that you look for in a friend? What do you think are some qualities that you need to have in that friendship in order to nurture and care and to keep that friendship strong and healthy?
I think for me, it's always been, I feel like the number one thing for me and friendships and relationships has just always been loyalty. And I think that loyalty is something that, it's a gift that you have to give in a friendship. It's not something that comes natural, I don't feel like, but I do think that whenever there's a group of people or you have friends where, like unconditionally, I'm going to be loyal to you. And that doesn't mean that and that's the thing too. I feel like that loyalty means like, I've got your best interests in mind and I'm going to act accordingly. Meaning that if there's a hard conversation that has to happen, I'm going to have that conversation because I'm loyal to you and I'm loyal to your future. I'm loyal to the person that you're becoming. I'm loyal to that. Like I'm committed to that. And so, or the good things, you know what I mean? Whenever, you're prioritizing, I think all of that lines up for me and loyalty. And I think that's one of the main things that I want to put into a relationship. And then hopes that I get back. I mean, whenever someone's loyal to you, and they're putting you, above other things, whether it be, people or events, like that's such a good feeling. And I think that creates that bond where, again, going back to where we started this conversation with, you can be 100% authentic with them. And that's such a big deal, I feel like. So.
I love how you said loyal to the person that you are becoming, like, because that right there, like when you have a friend that is still your friend, even though you've changed and even though like maybe you've shifted on the way you see the world, or maybe you've changed your mind about things, or that that they can still like be committed to seeing you become the best version of yourself. Like I love that. I think that's really beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
And something I wanted to bring up is vulnerability. I think that's a huge thing in friendships, especially, just and if you want to deepen that friendship or, in, having some depth, that there has to be some openness and vulnerability to like show your weaknesses. And I think that's hard. I mean, it's hard for me, even with like some of my really good friends. I was talking to one of my friends a couple weeks ago, and was just like talking with her about some loss and grief I've had, and and then I apologized. I was like, sorry, like I don't want to put you in the position of like being my pastor, because she's a pastor also. And she was like, no, like that's what friends are for. Like that's why I'm here. And so, I still have to like remind myself, like it's okay for me to kind of put that out there, and let one of my friends bear that, I guess, and be present for that. I think I've always have like tended to be more reserved and like be the one to take on for other people, and it's much harder for me to open up and be vulnerable in that same way.
I feel that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you have to find someone that you can be open and honest with, because I'm a very like open person. I automatically share, and for people who are, I guess, are more conversational, it's easy for me to connect with them because we're developing this. Basically, you develop a connection through conversation as you get to know somebody, but it also has to be an honest one. Like you have to be willing to, I guess, share parts of your lives. And I mean, it does take time. Like you're not going to just tell somebody your deepest, darkest secrets right away. But at the same time, you have to be open to letting them see who you are as a person, otherwise the friendship isn't genuine. And if it's not genuine, then it can just, it can become a toxic one. So that's pretty important too.
Yeah.
But also, I like Jonathan, what you were saying about being loyal to who they're becoming, because people do change. And like in terms of ebb and flow of relationships, one of my like childhood friends, Nevi, I've known her since I was in like third grade, and we were in Girl Scouts together and stuff, and hadn't talked to her for years. And then I invited her to my wedding like 4 or 5 years ago, and I got to see her after like decades, which is really cool. So we reconnected there, and then she came to like on a trip with me a couple years after that. So I finally got to see her. So now we're talking again, which is great. Like we reconnected and everything. So that stuff does happen as well. And then I don't think we were really around each other enough when we were younger to kind of like talk about sexuality or anything like that. But she actually is dating Maddie now. So, and I kind of saw like their friendship on Facebook, and my question was like, they're super cute. Like, are they dating? Like, what's going on? But yeah, like, so my view of her, of course, has changed, and she's changing, and she's still figuring out who she is. But you have to have, your good friends are going to be supportive of you in terms of like watching you grow and change into who you really are and who you're becoming. For the relationship to last, you have to kind of grow together and like leave space for each other to do that.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love that too, about you saying leaving space for each other to do that, because like, and there's definitely a balance there between, I think sometimes we grow apart as we change, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, but I think there's a difference between just simply growing apart because your lives kind of go in different directions, and someone not being able to handle the ways that you've changed, or like maybe you once agreed on something and now you disagree on something. And, so there's a difference between like, so you feeling like you can't trust who you are with someone and then just naturally growing apart, and I think that like leaving that space for people, like when I think about my closest relationships, my husband included, like there's so many times where I'm like, I just feel so lucky that we are still together, because like we're so different from who we were when we got married. And even with my friends, like probably my closest friends, we've been friends for like almost 20 years, and none of us are the same people. I mean, Jonathan would be one of those. I mean, Jonathan and I have been friends for like almost 2 decades, and like we are not the same people we were, but like I just am so appreciative of those friends that as we've grown and changed, it's like we have created space for who those people are becoming, and have said, I love you no matter what, you know? And I think that's so important. So I think for me, probably one of the biggest things for me in friendship is trust. Being able, and it kind of all those, like the loyalty, the vulnerability, like all of that, like that kind of fits in there. But like, I have to be able to trust you with my full self, you know, and trust that I can give that to you, and that it's not going to be used against me, or that it's not going to be, that you can handle that, and that you can hold that with care, you know? And yeah, those are all such good things about friendship that, you know, I think we both look for in a friend, but then also we commit to being those things. Like, I want to commit to being trustworthy in my friendships, and I want to commit to like being the person that other people can be vulnerable with, you know, and that I can be loyal to people. Like, I think that's really important too, is like, not just are we looking for that in a person, but that we are committed to being the friend that we want to have, you know? That's important too.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Maybe, were you gonna say something?
If I could jump in and pose a question.
Yes, please.
I was wondering what y'all think about, you know, especially when we talk about in relationship with our faith and loving other people. What do y'all think about, like, do we ever have a responsibility to be someone's friend? Or, you know, like a moral, I don't want to say obligation, that seems a little too strong, but, you know, kind of a responsibility, or like calling.
Ooh,
sorry, that broke up a little bit. A responsibility to be what?
To be someone's friend.
Oh, okay. Oh, you mean like for someone you don't really get along with, do you feel like you should still be their friend anyway? Or in terms of like giving them guidance on something?
Just in general, I mean, it could be someone that you don't really like that much, or I don't know, like kids are told, like, you know, sit with the kid who's all alone, and like, you know, is that fair to, you know, request of somebody? Or, you know, I know a lot of people since COVID, you know, that strained a lot of relationships, and like a lot of friendships, and like, you know, do you need to still be friends with somebody even if like they're saying stuff that is wrong and harmful, and maybe you can influence them? I don't know.
I think I'll say that
my peace.
I think it's hard. I definitely think it's hard, and it can get really manipulative really fast if you're like, hey, your responsibility is to be a friend to this person, right? Like that, there's like some things there that, again, if you're looking at it from a bunch of different angles, there's probably a lot of nuances to this question too. But like, I think more so as a responsibility to be a friend, like I think maybe more of a responsibility to be friendly, right? Like if you're, and I think if you're just being friendly, there's no expectation there for like the party to reciprocate back what you're doing for them, right? Like, and so I think that, again, should we have a responsibility to be in friendship with someone? That's a little tough, but I think feeling a level of responsibility for being friendly, maybe for trying to do your part to speak into a relationship. But again, I think the difference with those two things is one of them has expectation coming back and one of them doesn't. So you just want to be really careful and manage those expectations, maybe.
That's a good thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for me, like, life is short. And if somebody is, there's a difference between a friend who is, or a potential friend who says something harmful and then apologizes for it or changes their attitude when you let them know that what they said or did was harmful. There's a whole other thing. It's a whole other thing when they're actively doing things that are purposefully harmful and they know they are to your person.
Wow.
So if it's that kind of relationship, then no, I have no responsibility whatsoever to keep someone like that around me or the people I love, because my mental health is valuable and life is short, and I don't like toxic energy. Like, if I mean, basically, like you said before, you are trying to be a friend to someone else, but you also have to have that reciprocated. And if they are saying a lot of things that are super harmful, then, and they're repeatedly saying those things, then are they really your friend? Like, are they really worried about your well-being if they keep doing that? You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't do that. Like, I guess it would also depend on too on how that works. Like, if, Sabrina, they're constantly bringing it up or something and it's always in your face, that's like a really conflicting, like, kind of toxic exchange. But if they just have a view that is just different and they're not actively trying to put it in your face all the time, then I don't know. That's complicated, but
it is complicated.
But yeah, I don't know. It is. No, like somebody said, ain't nobody got time for that. Like, if it's toxic, it's toxic. Like, I can't. There are people, you want to surround yourself with people who are going to be invested in your well-being, and if they're like that, then they're obviously not. So
yeah, that feels like such $1 million question. That's something I've wrestled with so much, like, because I think for a long time I felt very guilty and felt very obligated to stay in friendships and relationships with people because I was a Christian and felt like I had to love them, that I felt this obligation, even though maybe it wasn't healthy, or even if and so I guess that really, I guess that brings us back to the definition of what is friendship, like, is it, because, there's all kinds of different relationships. And I think I would say, and to everyone watching, obviously we're just telling you how we're clearly, we are all navigating this. Like, none of us have like the right answer. But I think for me, as I'm navigating this, it's like, I think for me, there's a difference between people who I am in friendship with and then people who, like, maybe I don't trust them on a level to like have this reciprocal mutual friendship, but I still feel challenged to be present in their life and to love them and to show them kindness and to care for them, but not necessarily on that level of friendship, because I know that because I know that like I can't fully trust, like them having my best interest at heart. So that's I think that's where I'm at in navigating that process, because it is tough. Like, I don't want to cut I don't want to like give in to like where I'm cutting people out and like canceling people to where I'm saying, I don't think you can ever change, or that you're irredeemable. But I think there are some people that I can look at and go, I just can't, like, I can't trust them enough to let them in on that level. And I hope that's okay. I think that's okay.
I think that's okay. That's really good.
Pretty much where Chloe and I are now. Like, we talk. She like likes my posts occasionally, but I don't trust her. I don't trust her ability to be honest enough with me in the moment to deal with an issue for us to have a real relationship. Because I feel like the effort would be wasted. So surface friendship, like, still praying for her, hope she's great and everything. But I don't have the energy or trust in her to be able to take it back to where we were before. I don't. So it's kind of like, hey, you're awesome, I hope you're doing really well, but I'm going to stay over here. Just kind of the way it is. So, yeah.
Sabrina, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that too. Like, and you might just say, I don't know, I'm trying to figure it out too. It's a tough one.
Yeah. there's so many different situations like kind of going through my mind, where like, one person who we've been, I'll just say friends for lack of, a better term, for years, but it's always been very one-sided. And, I know that it's always all about her. But, so like, I don't know, maybe it's not really a friendship, but it's more, I don't know, some other kind of relationship. And then there's kind of the relationship with like, an older person, in my life who is lonely and has very few relationships. And so like, feels, is like, oh, you're such a good friend to me and stuff. But then she'll go off and say things that are, harmful and racist. And, I have to push back on that. But it's like, do I really want to see that person again? If I don't have to,
Yeah.
I don't know. But then I hear, there's like stories of transformation of like, this person was a friend to this person, and like over time they changed, but I don't think we can't carry the responsibility for changing somebody also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
It's so tricky. It's so tricky. But I do think, I think at the core of all of it is making sure that we have healthy boundaries in place with those kinds of relationships, where it's like, we have to, like Kat, like you were saying, like you can't, life is too short to stay in a relationship with someone who's causing you harm, and you are worth more than that. And, I think,
Right.
and to think that, I know for me, because again, man, there's been so much, I had to undo so many ways of thinking of like having this responsibility to like stay in a person's life, to be the one to change them. But that's also such a kind of a
toxic
and supremacist, I'm not anybody's savior, nor can I like fix people. And that's not really the point. And so it's like, I guess if it comes to a point where if I'm looking at my own, like Kat, like you said, my own emotional well-being, if staying in a relationship is detrimental to that, I think at that point, I have to understand that I'm not the one that would change them anyway. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I'm not anyone's savior. So yeah.
Well, and people have to change because they want to change. That's like women who get into relationships with men who they're incompatible with, and they know they're incompatible, and yet they still marry them anyway, thinking they're going to change them later. And then like 2 or 3, 10 years, 20 years later, they find out, wow, he's not changing for me. I guess I should. It's like, you can't change somebody. They have to be willing to do it themselves. It's why, like with relationships like that, when like Sabrina said, somebody's saying something harmful, if they're actually willing to have a conversation about it, and they're taking in what you're saying, then there's definitely potential there. Like that's maybe not someone you cut off, but if they're just kind of set in their ways, and they're really just comfortable where they are, and they're comfortable with just doing stuff around you that is like damaging to you, then that's when it's just kind of time to call it quits, or at least put some space there.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Makes sense. Sabrina, what were you going to say?
I think I've had thoughts going in and out as we've been talking, so I was like, oh, I finally got it. I do think the one, maybe, one situation where I think maybe we do have a responsibility to try to be friends is like, I think we do need to try to push ourselves to be friends with people who are different from ourselves. or in who we might not initially be drawn to. And, you know, I think I really loved what Kat said about, you know, having good boundaries. You know, there's certainly got to be good boundaries in place with that. But otherwise, you know, we all are so siloed into friendship groups of people who look like us and think like us. And so I think we do have to, you know, try to extend ourselves beyond what might feel initially comfortable or like drawing us to someone. Yeah.
Well, that's proximity is, you know, if we're going to talk about when it comes to our faith and friendship and what that looks like and like loving our neighbor, and, you know, I think really what changes people is when they're in proximity to people who are different. It's what helps us have empathy and compassion when we're in relationship with people that we think differently from. Now, again, if they're causing harm, you know, I'm not going to tell someone who's queer, well, that means you have to be in close friendship with someone who constantly tells you that who you are is you know, you're sinful or going to hell. Like, I would you know, I'm not going to tell a Black person, like, you need to be in relationship with someone who's race. Like, clearly there has to be, you know, you have to protect yourself and your peace and your well-being and all of that. But I think there is something really huge to be said for that, for like making sure that we are intentional about trying to develop friendships with people that we're different from, that we have different life experiences, that we see the world differently. Because it does, I think it changes us for the better. It reminds us that that we may not be as right as we think we are about everything. You know, like, it brings this sense of humility to that, you know, to that relationship. Yeah. All such good points.
And I think maybe the responsibility more falls on, I guess, the person with privilege, I would say. So, like, yeah, I wouldn't want to put it on, you know, on people of color to, like, you need to have white friends, but but more, you know, for white people, like, hey, you need to extend your circle to include people of color. And
that's why traveling's so great, because you get to meet people from all over the world and all different cultures and different foods and situations, and you get more comfortable with being uncomfortable, and your circle expands more. So, because I met someone in Mexico that I'm still friends with on Instagram, and she travels all the time, and it was so much fun, and I was so sad she was only there for like 2 days. But if she had been there the whole time, I would have spent way too much money, because we went out and went to the beach and did all this other stuff like the one day she was there. So I'm kind of glad she left, but it was so much fun. So yeah, you get to meet more people too if you just kind of purposefully step outside of your bubble and kind of expand your boundaries a little bit.
Yeah.
Plus, it's lots of fun. It's good food. So.
Yes, this is so true. Well, we are like approaching an hour right now of conversation, which, you know, is fine because everyone had such great things to say, but we'll go ahead and kind of start to wrap this up. Does anybody have any, and if not, that's totally fine, but does anybody have any just kind of last thoughts that you want to leave people with when it comes to, you know, this idea of friendship and how to navigate that in our lives?
I want to say if you're listening to all this and you made it this far and you're not in a place where you feel like you do have friendships maybe that you used to have, or you're hearing the conversation about friendships that other people have, and you're like, man, I really want that or I need that, and you feel just like a little down about that, just if there are certain things I feel like that are worth fighting for and worth putting an effort for. And I feel like if we're kind of trying to boil that down just to a practical level, as human beings living with each other and all that kind of stuff, I feel like friendships are one of those things that are worth fighting for. And so that looks different, developing new friendships for different people, or with different people, can look different for everyone. But I feel like there are a few things in this world worth fighting for. And I feel like a valuable friendship, a life-giving friendship is one of those things. So if you're discouraged, if you're in a place where you don't really have that, I would just encourage you and challenge you to really try to fight for maybe rekindling old friendships or trying to find new ones. As hard as that may be, it's so rewarding. So
Yeah. Agreed. I think that's a great way to cap it off. So, all right. Well, thank you guys all so much for hanging with us for an hour. And thank you, Kat, Jonathan, and Sabrina for sharing all of your thoughts. I appreciate it.
cool. Have a good week, everyone.
Oh, thank you all so much for hanging in there with us today for our long conversation and for joining us today. And thank you everyone for all of your input in the chat. Again, I think these are really important conversations, with the purpose not being to like offer a bunch of answers, but just to say, this is an area of our life that matters. And I love how Jonathan rounded it out there at the end just by saying that, recognizing that friendship is hard for a lot of people, and that you might find yourself in a place where you're like, man, I just don't feel like I have these relationships. But I love that challenge from Jonathan of that it is an area that is it's worth fighting for, and it's worth getting awkward and getting uncomfortable, trying to figure out how to navigate that, so that we can nurture those kinds of relationships in our life. So again, thank you all for being here today. Just another quick reminder that next week, we will not be gathering in person for the service itself, but immediately following at 11 o'clock, we are going to, all of our local peeps are going to meet at Casa Maria in Kyle to have lunch together. And if you want to join with people at an in-person service of sorts, you can join the small group watch party. They meet at 9 o'clock at Casa Maria, and they watch the service together, and they have you can order some delicious breakfast tacos or whatever, and be able to have some community with some other folks and to watch the message. So love you all so much. I'm so glad you were all here. Hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we will see you right back here next Sunday.